afternoon, good morning. Here at the driving school, we are now going to go in the pre-trip inspection. You must have with you all the time your study guide. You must bring with you your CDL book, okay, section 11. You must bring with you a little rag. Why? Because when you are saying clean, you must take action where it says clean. You must bring a wash. You can bring a wash like this. You can bring a wash like this when you're doing your 1 minute or the test, the air brake test. Optional, you can bring a barrel of water.
Okay, now this part, what I would like to do is I would like to go through the truck a little bit and show you some parts that you need to remember their names and be able to identify them. So when you're touching and pointing to them, the DMV people know that what you're talking about, that the water pump is the water pump, and that the alternator is the alternator, and that the air compressor is the air compressor, okay? So we're going to take a walk over here. I'll open the hood. Okay, I'm going to unlatch it. Okay, remember how I open this nice, safe? Windy days it gets tough, hold the gas a little bit, nice and gentle, okay? Now, one of the items that I want to make sure that you can identify and that you're pointing and touching to is the alternator. This here is the alternator right here, okay? And again, it's belt driven. You need to let them know it is belt driven, okay? All right. The next item that I want to make sure that you know what that is down here where you see me pointing and touching. That's going to be the water pump, okay? No leaks, water, no leaks, and it's gear driven, okay? Very, very important. So your alternator is here and your water pump is there, okay? So next I want to bring you around over here to the driver's side. And I want you to identify that, make sure that you know that this is the coolant reservoir. Okay, this is the coolant reservoir, and make sure that you identify that it's through the sight glass, above the refill mark, through the sight glass. Okay, coolant reservoir. You need to make sure you know that, okay? This here is your power steering reservoir. Power steering reservoir. Make sure you know that, okay? Okay, over here, the very on top, that's your air compressor. Air compressor is on top, and your power steering pump is below the air compressor, inside the frame. Okay, that's your power steering pump. All right. Another item that you need to make sure you don't forget, this is your power steering box. Okay, this is your gearbox, your power steering box. A lot of times my students forget these items. This is your pitman arm. Pitman arm is. This is your pitman arm. It's long here. That's your drag link. Drag link. So you got your pitman arm and your drag link. And then this is your upper control arm right here. Okay? And then I'll see if Islena can get under here and take a look. Down there, that's your lower control arm. Right down here. Lower control arm. And attached to your lower control arm is your tie rod that comes across from the other side. Okay, so you've got your pitman arm in the front, your drag link, your upper control arm, your lower control arm, and your tie rod. All right, okay, those are very important. You also have, make sure, your brake chamber. Brake chamber, don't forget that. Slack adjuster and push rods. Slack adjuster and push rod unit right there. Very important. Remember that. A lot of folks have a hard time remembering that. Put that in your memory. Slack adjuster and push rod. Okay? All right. Then what I'd like to also identify, making sure that your landing gear, okay, this is your landing gear. All right? Everything else is pretty much what we went through the pre-trip inspection. Okay, you'll be going over those and over those through your pre-trip. Okay? Then, back here, the 3 different items I want you to remember is your stabilizer bar right here. Okay, your spring arm and your torsion bar. Okay, again, this is your stabilizer bar, your spring arm, and your torsion bar. Okay, everything else in back here is what you're doing in your pre-trip, but these are the 3 little items you do not want to forget. Okay, try and memorize those. Yeah, let's see. When you're inspecting your hydraulic cargo lift, you say hydraulics. Hydraulics means oil. So you want to make sure that when you're doing your pre-trip that you say no leaks. Okay, because if it's going to be leaking, hydraulics oil will be leaking. It would be leaking primarily in this area here, possibly somewhere else, but this is generally where your hoses are. Okay? All right. That's okay. Okay, I just want to point in here. This is up under by your 5th wheel. That's your 5th wheel release arm, okay? That disengages and releases your locking jaw on your 5th wheel that goes around the kingpin, okay? All right. Okay, also another added thing is the DMV, you want to make sure and clear that this here is where you check the oil, okay? This here is where you put the oil in if it's low. That's called the oil fill, okay? And you need to make sure that you clarify that this is the oil dipstick right here, this first one, okay? That's what this is the oil fill. So this is the dipstick, the check, and this is to fill it if it needs oil, okay? And if in order to check it, you need to be able to unscrew and then pull out, okay? And once you push back in, hold it and tighten it back up, snug, okay? My name is Rick, okay, and we're going to do our pre-trip inspection, okay? And today I have the key in my hand of the tractor, and I'm going to put it in my pocket so nobody can move the truck while I'm doing my pre-trip inspection, okay? So first we're going to start up at the very top with the clearance lights. The clearance lights, they're going to be clean. They're not cracked, they're not broken, they're properly mounted, secure, they're the proper color amber, and they are functional, okay? Now when you're doing your inspection, you want to point and or touch every item that you're inspecting so the examiner knows exactly what you're looking at, okay, for the inspection. Okay, from there, we're going to come up to the windshield. The windshield is going to be clean, it's not cracked, broken, no illegal stickers or obstructions, properly mounted and secured, and the rubber seal is in place. Next, we're going to go to the wiper blades and wiper arms, okay? They are not bent, cracked, or broken. The blades are not bent, cracked, or broken. The arms are not bent, cracked, or broken. And they're properly mounted and secured and function properly, okay? And from there, we're going to go to our convex mirrors, spot mirrors, okay? Got 2 of them. Touch them both as you say it, and they're clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, the rubber seal is in place, and it's not missing any nuts or bolts. Next, we're going to go to the mirror brackets. We've got one on the door, mirror bracket here up on the front fender, on the hood. Okay, they are not bent, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay, now from the mirror brackets we're going to come around here to our front. Okay, we're going to our directionals. Okay, we have our left and right directionals. Okay, they are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, and they are the proper color amber, and they are functional. Next, we're going to our headlights. Our left and right headlights. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, and they operate the high beam and low beams. Okay? So now we're working our way down, okay? And from here, what we're going to do, we're going to check underneath the tractor, okay? So what you want to do is, with the examiner, you're going to come under the front of the tractor, and you're going to take a look. I usually use each one of these holes as a spot to help remember where to go, all right? So first here, we're going to look for no leaks from the engine or the transmission, no oil leaks, remember, from the engine or the transmission. Under here, we're going to take a look, and I see no loose hoses or hanging wires, okay? And this last one over here, we're going to look under, and we're going to see, and we have no leaks from the coolant reservoir or power steering, okay? Once we're done with that, okay, we're going to stand back and we're going to take a look at the truck and the trailer all together, all right? And with that, we're going to look to see if the truck is leaning, okay? Our truck is not leaning, but if it was leaning, it could be one of four things, okay? We could be possibly that we parked in a hole, we have a flat tire, my load is shifted, or I have a broken suspension, okay? So, with that being said, we're done with our first section right now, okay? Next, we're going to go do our pre-trip inspection underneath the hood, and we're going to start that on the passenger side, okay? So, I'm going to open the hood, and I'll show you how to open the hood, okay? So, if you want to take a look. Unfasten it on the one side. Unfasten it on this side also. Okay? Open the front. And now, when you open the hood, you don't pull it hard, just pull it light and easy until you can feel it come, and don't let it slam down. You don't want to bust any springs. See how I held it? Slamming? Okay. Okay, now we're going to start our inspection on the inside of the engine compartment, starting on the passenger side, okay? First items here, we're going to check our hoses. Remember the ABS for hoses. ABS stands for abrasions, bulges, or cuts, okay? So what we're going to do is, I'm going to take a look here. All my hoses. I can touch a few hoses in here along the way so the examiner knows I'm inspecting it. All my hoses, no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. All right? The next item we're going to check here is our alternator. Okay? This here is my alternator. Okay? My alternator is not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken, not missing any nuts and bolts, and it is belt driven, okay? Then we're going to the belt. The belt is not cracked, it's not cut, it has any loose fibers, and it shows not frayed, and no signs of wear. And when I press in the center with my finger, it should not move more than 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch when I press in the center. Okay. Next item I'm going to is my water pump. My water pump is right in here. Water pump. It's not cracked. It's not bent. It's not broken. It's properly mounted and secured, and no leaks. And it is gear driven. Okay. Especially now, the water pump, no leaks, and it's gear driven. It's properly mounted and secured. Okay. Our next item is going to be our oil dipstick. Our oil dipstick is this one right here, okay? This is our oil dipstick. It's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, no leaks. Remember, you have a fluid, so you want to say no leaks, and it's above the refill mark, okay? Our next item that we're going to go to is our electrical. Our electrical is stationed right here, okay? The electrical is going to be no abrasions, no cut, or no corrosion. Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? All right. Now what we're going to go is, now we're finished with the passenger side. Now we're going to go to the driver's side and continue our inspection. Okay. Okay. Again, on this side here, we're going to begin with the hoses. Remember the hoses, the ABCs. No abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Touch the hoses as you're doing the inspection, okay? Our next item was going to be the coolant reservoir. This is the coolant reservoir, okay? It's not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken. Remember, there are no leaks. It's got water. So it's not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken, it has no leaks. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and it's above the refill mark, and I can see that through the sight glass, okay, and point to the sight glass. That's what you're looking to see, okay? Make sure that the examiner knows that you're looking through the sight glass. All right, from here, we're gonna come down and we're gonna go to our power steering reservoir. Our power steering reservoir, it's not cracked, bent, or broken, no severe dents, no leaks, and it also is above the refill mark, okay? Now, from the power steering reservoir, we're going to go to the air compressor. Now, the air compressor is up here on top, okay? And our air compressor, it's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, no leaks, and it's gear driven. Make sure you let them know it's gear driven, okay? The next item after the compressor is going to be the power steering pump, which is mounted underneath and inside the frame, underneath the compressor, inside the frame, okay? The oil pump, power steering pump, is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, is no leaks, and is also gear driven, okay? Now from here, since we're right here, we're going to check the frame. My hand is on the frame. My frame is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, no illegal holes or broken welds, and I will continue to inspect every 4 to 6 feet, okay? So then what we're going to do here is we're going to move back, and the next item we're going to inspect is our shock absorber. Our shock absorber, it's not bent, cracked, or broken, it's properly mounted and secured, no leaks, properly mounted, secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, okay? Our next item is going to be here. These are what they call our spring hangers, okay? Spring hangers, front and rear, okay? Front and rear spring hangers. They are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, and the bushings are in place, okay? They have a bushing in the front, and if I point, you can see there's a bushing in the back, okay? Very important. They want to know the bushings are in place. Okay, the next item I'm going to is our leaf springs. These are our leaf springs, okay? Our leaf springs, they are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken, they are all present, and they have not shifted more than 1/4 inch out of alignment. And they're properly mounted and secured, okay? They're properly mounted and secured with 2 U-bolts. These are the 2 U-bolts. The 2 U-bolts are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly mounted and secured to the axle with 4 lug nuts, which are tight, okay? So that takes us all the way down to the axle. Now, what I like to do when I do my inspection, I come back up, and I'm going to come back on up here, and I'm going to start here with my steering column. This is my steering column. My steering column, it's not bent, it's not cracked or broken, it's properly mounted and secured to a universal joint inside this here boot right here, okay? And it's well lubricated, all right? Next item I'm going to is my steering box, okay? This is my steering box. The steering box is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured, and no leaks, all right? Power steering hoses, okay? Power steering hose, no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. properly mounted and secured. Okay, so now we're right here. Now we're going to come down to this item right here. This is our pitman arm. We're going to go this pitman arm, drag link, upper and lower control arms, and the tie rod end on the very bottom that comes across from the other side of the truck. Okay? Okay, I'm going to go through all these items one more time. This is our pitman arm, drag link, upper control arm, and lower control arm. You really can't see, you have to be different position here. Okay? And our tie rod end that comes into that. Okay? All right. They are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken. They are properly mounted and secured with 2 castle nuts and safety cotter pins, and the seals are in place. And there's your seals right here. Okay? A seal there, and also a seal there. All right? Now, from here, since we're right here, we're going to come up to this hose. This is our brake hoses. Brake hoses again. No abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, properly mounted and secure, no leaks. Okay? And then from here, our brake hose goes into our brake chamber. Our brake chamber is not bent, cracked, or broken, no dents. All right? Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, no loose clamps. Okay? Our next item is going to be this item right here. Okay? This is our push rod and slack adjuster. Okay? Again, slack adjusters and push rod. Properly mounted and secured with safety cotter pins. Okay? Not missing any nuts and bolts. And when I pull on it with my hand, it should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Okay, now I'm going to repeat that again. This item here is your push rod and slack adjuster unit. Okay, it's properly mounted and secured with safety cotter pins. Okay, not missing any nuts and bolts. And when I pull on it with my hand, it should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Okay, now from here we're going to work our way out. All right. Our next item is going to be our brake drum. Our brake drum is not cracked, bent, or broken, and there is no oil or grease in the brake drum. Okay? Our next item is going to be brake shoes. The brake shoes are not worn less than 1/4 of an inch, properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. The item after that will be our rim. Inside and the outside of the rim. It's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken. There are no welding repairs or welding done to the rim. Okay? Properly mounted and secured to the axle. Okay? After the rim, we're going to go to the tire. Okay? The tire, we have the inside the tire, top, and outside of the tire. The tire, again, no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, no leaks. Okay? It's properly mounted. All right? The tread is evenly worn. Okay? The tread depth should be no less than 4/32. Okay? And no recaps are allowed on the front axle. All right? So, as we work our way down here now, we're going to go to our lug nuts. Okay? All our lug nuts are present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken, and show no signs of looseness, such as shiny threads or rust trails. And the bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. Okay? The examiners want to know that the bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. All right. This is our hub oil seal. Our hub oil seal is not cracked, bent, or broken, properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and there's no leaking. Okay? The next is our valve stem. The valve stem is right here. Okay? It's not cracked, bent, or broken, The cap is in place, okay? No leaks. And when I check with a air tire gauge, the air pressure should be between 80 and 100 psi, okay? So that basically takes you all the parts up until this point, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to close the hood, okay? And we're going to continue with our outside inspection, okay? So please observe how I close the hood. Let it down nice and easy. I don't let it slam through, okay? Secure it. There. Okay. All right. Now we've closed the hood, okay? Now we're going to continue with our outside pre-trip inspection starting on the driver's side, okay? All right, again, we're going to go with our mirror brackets, front one, and then the door. They are not bent, they are not cracked, they are not broken. They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, okay? My spot mirror, convex mirror, and spot mirrors. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, and the rubber seal is in place. All right? Now from here we're going to work back to the door. The door area here. The door, it's not bent, it's not dented, it's not cracked, it's not broken. It's properly mounted and secured with two hinges. One here on the outside. Now open the door. And here on the inside. My hinges. They're properly mounted and secured, and they are not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? All right. Then I'm going to go with my rubber seal, my door seal. It's not cracked, it's not ripped and torn, and it's present and intact. Okay? Now, I'm going to support handles. I got two support handles, one on the inside and one on the outside. Okay? My support handles. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and will support my weight. Okay. Now I'm going to close the door. My door closes and opens properly. Okay. From here, we're going to come down, we're going to inspect our two steps. 1, 2. Our two steps are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, properly mounted and secured to the fuel tank. Okay? The fuel cap is present and it's tight. Okay? The fuel tank, it is not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured to the frame, not missing any nuts and bolts, and no leaks. Okay? Our fuel lines. And I'd like to try and get you in here to take a look at the fuel lines so you know what you're looking at when you point in here. Down here in the bottom, not this blue hose, those on the bottom down there, those are our fuel lines. The fuel lines, there's no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts. They're properly mounted and secured, and no leaks. Okay? All right, now we're going to move our way back here. This is our catwalk. Our catwalk is not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. All right, now we're going to go back to our batteries. Okay, our batteries are in here. Okay, we have 3 batteries. Okay, the 3 batteries. All the connections are going to be tight. Okay, there's all the cell caps are present. Okay, and there's no corrosion. Okay, the battery box, which is the blower portion, and the battery cover are properly mounted and secured, and they're not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay, so from here, I like to move up to the rear windows. The rear windows are going to have the same description as on your windshield. They're clean. They are not cracked. not broken. There's no illegal stickers or obstructions. Properly mounted and secured, and the rubber seals are in place. All right. Now, as we come down, we're going to come down to our electrical lines. Our electrical lines, they're properly mounted and secured, okay, with 2 safety lids to the tractor. Okay, and then follow them around. Just make sure you're touching the proper areas here, and properly mounted and secured to the trailer with 2 safety lids, okay? And the electrical lines have no abrasions, cuts, or corrosion, okay? Our next item will be our air lines. Our air lines are properly mounted and secured with 2 air fittings, okay, to the tractor, and they're properly mounted, our air lines properly mounted to the trailer with glad hands, okay? The glad hands are not cracked, bent, or broken, properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and the rubber seals are in place and no leaks. Our air lines have no abrasions, bulges, cuts, and no leaks. Okay? The electrical lines and the air lines are not twisted, pinched, tangled, and rubbing against the frame. Okay? We don't want them rubbing against the frame. All right? From there, we're going to go down and we're going to take a look at the drive shaft. Okay? The drive shaft is down here in between the frame. Okay? The drive shaft is not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured to a universal joint right here, pointing to, okay? And it's well lubricated, and the area is free of debris, meaning that there's no rags, towels, rope, or anything wound around that, okay? It's free of debris, that area. All right? From there, we're going to go to our cross members. Our cross members, front to rear, okay? They're all present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and no broken welds. Okay? All right. From there, our cross members, we're going to go to our frame here again. Okay? Our frame is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken. Okay? There's no illegal holes or broken welds, and I will continue to check every 4 to 6 feet. Okay? Now from here we come to our splash guard. And our splash guard is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken. It's properly mounted, secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. All right? From our splash guard, we're going to come back around here to our mud flap. This is our mud flap. Okay? It's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not ripped. It's not torn. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. All right? From our mud flap, we're going to climb underneath the truck here, the trailer. All right? Up on the very top, that big long plate, that's going to be our apron. Okay, our apron is not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken, there's no broken welds, it's properly mounted and secured and well lubricated. All right? There is no gap between the apron and the fifth wheel. Okay, and we'll continue and we'll repeat that one more time. Okay? Next item is in between here in the fifth wheel is the kingpin. Okay? It's up under there. Kingpin is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured. The small bar that you see coming across, that's the locking jaw. Okay? The locking jaw is fully engaged and secured around the kingpin. All right? Next item is going to be, this is the fifth wheel. Fifth wheel is not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured with mounting nuts and bolts, okay? And well lubricated. And again, there is no gap between the fifth wheel and the apron. All right? The next item we'll be inspecting is the platform right here. You got one here, one here. Okay, platform is not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and the 7 nuts and bolts are in place and they are all tight. All right. Now we're going to move back here to this final cross member, and the cross member is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, no broken welds, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay. We're going to, since they're here, we're going to inspect these reflectors. These reflectors are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they are properly mounted and secured, and they are reflective. Okay? Our taillights. Taillights are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? They are the proper color red, along with the reflectors red. Proper color red. You need to indicate what the color is. Okay, they want to hear that. So proper color red, and they are functional. All right. My license plate. It's clean. It's not cracked. It's not broken, and up to date. Okay. Now under here, we're going to go from the license plate. We're going to go to the brake hoses again, okay, just like on the front axle. Okay, the brake hoses, there's no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, okay, no leaks, properly mounted and secured, and no loose fittings. Okay, again, like on the front axle, we have the same brake chamber. The brake chamber right here is not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay, no severe dents. Okay, no loose clamps, and no leaks. Properly mounted and secured. Okay. In front of the chamber, we have the slack adjuster and push rod. All right. It's far up there. You can't see it, but if you point to it, it'll count. The slack adjuster is properly mounted and secured with safety cotter pins. Okay. Not missing any nuts and bolts. And when I pull on it with my hand, it should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Okay? All right, now from here, we're going to move into the brake drum, just like we did on the front axle. All right? The brake drum, you point to that the best you can. The brake drum is not cracked, it's not bent, it has no oil or grease. All right? The next item will be our brake shoes. The brake shoes, okay, should not be worn less than 1/4 of an inch, and they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? All right. Our next item that we're going to do is our rims. Okay, our rims, we have inside, okay, middle, and outside. Okay, again, I'll repeat that. On our rims, we have the inside, middle, and outside. They're not bent, they're not broken, they're not cracked, properly mounted and secured, no welding repairs or welding, properly mounted and secured to the axle. And there is no debris between the two rims. Okay? Tires. We've got the inside, top, middle, inside, top, outside. Tires, no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. Properly mounted and secured. The tread is evenly worn. The tread depth should be no less than 2/32, and recaps are allowed or okay on this axle. Okay? Now, we're going to go to our lug nuts. Our lug nuts are all present. They're not cracked, bent, or broken. Properly mounted and secured. No signs of looseness, such as shiny threads or rust trails. and the bolt holes are not cracked or distorted. Hub oil seal. Our hub oil seal is not cracked, bent, or broken, properly mounted and secured, nuts and bolts, and no leaks. Okay, our valve stems. We have two valve stems, one here and one here, inside and outside tires. The valve stems are now bent, cracked, or broken, no leaks, the cap is in place, okay, properly mounted and secured, and when I check with the tire gauge, it should be between 80 and 100 psi. Okay? Now, from here, I like to move for my inspection to the landing gear. The landing gear is right here. It's fully raised. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? Landing gear supports here, here, all in here. Your landing gear supports are not bent, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and no broken welds. Okay? This is our crankshaft handle shaft across underneath here, okay? Crank handle shaft. Alright? It's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and it's functional. Alright? It's right up in here. Crank handle shaft. Alright? Now we'll come outside. And the distance that we have between the back of the truck and the trailer, the landing gear, is the proper distance. So when I make a sharp turn, the tractor frame will not hit our landing gear. Okay? And that's good for now. From here, what we're going to do, we're going to start with the front of the trailer. Okay? Front of the trailer, we got a clearance light. And we're going to also take a look at the side clearance light while we're pointing up there. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they are the proper color amber, they're properly mounted and secured, and they're functional, okay? And also we're going to inspect our reflectors here. Our reflector is also properly mounted, secured, and not cracked or broken, and is functional. Now we're going to go to the front of the trailer here. Front of the trailer is not cracked, bent, or broken. There's no illegal holes or broken welds, and no bulges or holes, not missing any rivets. Okay? And then from here, we're going to go to our frame. Okay? This is our frame of our trailer. Our frame, it's not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken. It's properly mounted and secured. Okay? No illegal holes or broken welds. And I will continue to check every 4 to 6 feet to the end of the trailer. Okay? And then I'm going to take a look up under here. This is underneath our trailer. These are our cross members. All the cross members are present. They are not bent, they are not cracked, they are not broken. They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? And no broken welds. Alright. No. Also, they want to hear the no damage to the floor. So at the same time you're inspecting the cross members, you're also inspecting the if there's any damage to the floor, which is a safety issue. Okay? Now from here, we're going to come up and we're going to walk back and we can clean it as we go, making sure. This is our DOT reflective tape. Okay? It's properly mounted and secured. It's clean and visible. Alright? And from here, we have a running light. Okay? It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, not cracked or broken. It's clean, it's a proper color amber, and it's functional. Okay? Now from here, we're going to go back under the trailer here and continue with our inspection here. Alright? Alright. Now, we have a few different items back here now. This is our stabilizer bar. Stabilizer bar, it's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, and no broken welds. Okay, it's welded on the ends. All right. This is our spring arm. This item right under here, that's our spring arm. The spring arm is not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken. It's properly mounted, secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. It's properly mounted, secured to the axle. Okay. The other item back here, this over here, is our torsion bar. Our torsion bar is not bent, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. All right, those are a couple different items here you need to know. All right, now from here, we're going to go with our spring hangers. We have a front spring hanger here and our rear spring hanger back there. Okay, spring hangers, front and rear, they are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken. They're properly mounted and secured, okay, and the bushings are in place, okay. Then from here, we're going to do our leaf springs and auxiliary. Okay, now I'm going to do a recap, okay? I just want to go over these items one more time. Okay, my stabilizer bar, it's not cracked, bent, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured, okay? No broken welds. The next item is going to be my spring hanger over here. It's not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured to the axle, and it's not missing any nuts and bolts. Next item over here is the torsion bar. On the right side here I'm pointing to, that's not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken. It's properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay. Next item is going to be my spring hangers, front and my rear. My spring hangers, they are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're properly mounted and secured, and the bushings are in place. All right. Next, I'm going to go to my leaf springs and auxiliary leaf springs. Okay. They are all present. They are not cracked, bent, or broken. They have not shifted more than 1/4 inch out of alignment, and they're properly mounted and secured with 2 U-bolts. Okay. The 2 U-bolts are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly mounted and secured to the axle with 4 lug nuts, which are tight. Okay, now from here we're going to go to our brake hoses. Okay, our brake hoses, well, before I go any further, according to the sheet, I'm going to go back out here. No, I'm in the right section. We're going to go to our brake hoses. Okay, our brake hoses, there's no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, no leaks. Properly mounted and secured, no loose fittings. Okay. Again, I'm going to recap. I have my brake hoses. My brake hoses, there are no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. They're properly mounted and secured, and no loose fittings. Okay. Then we're going to go to our brake chamber. Our brake chamber is not cracked, bent, or broken. No dents. Okay. Properly mounted, secured. Nuts and bolts are in place, and there are no loose clamps. All right. Slack adjuster and push rod, which are on the other side. Okay. The slack adjuster and push rod, taking your point from here, that's acceptable. Slack adjuster and push rod. Okay. They're properly mounted and secured with safety cotter pins, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay. And when I pull on it with my hand, it should not move more than 1 inch with the brakes released. Okay? Alright, now we're going to move our way towards the outside of the trailer, okay? Okay, now we're going to go to our brake drums. Brake drums, they're not cracked, bent, or broken, and no oil or grease. Okay? Next, we're going to our brake shoes. Our brake shoes are not worn less than 1/4 inch. Properly mounted and secured, not missing nuts and bolts. Next item, we're going to go to our rims. We're going to go the inside of the rims, check in the middle of the rims, in between inside, middle, and outside of the rims. Okay? They are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken. There's no welding repairs or welding, and they're properly mounted, secured to the axle. The next, we're going to go to our tires. We're going to go inside, top, middle, outside, and just FYI, on the rims, there is no debris between the two rims, okay? Don't forget that. Okay, we're going to go to the tires. Inside, top, middle, top, outside. Okay? The tires, there's no abrasions, no bulges, no cuts, and no leaks. Properly mounted and secured. Tread is evenly worn, and the tread depth should be none less than 230 seconds, and recaps are okay on this axle also. Alright? Okay, our next item that we're going to do after the tire is our lug nuts. Our lug nuts, they're all present, properly mounted and secured, not cracked, bent, or broken. No signs of looseness, such as shiny threads or rust trails. And the bolt holes, there's no cracks or distortion. The next item here is the hub oil seal. The hub oil seal is not cracked, bent, or broken. Properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and no leaks. Okay. The next items are going to be our valve stems. Outside and inside valve stems, we've got two of them. They are not bent, they are not cracked, they are not broken. They're properly mounted and secured, no leaks, the cap is in place. And when I check with an air gauge, the air pressure should be between 80 and 100 pounds or 100 psi. Okay? From here, we're going to come out, we're going to check our mud flap. Our mud flap is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's not ripped or torn. It's properly mounted, secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? Here we're going to check our running light. Running light is not cracked, bent, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured. It's clean and the proper color red, and it's functional. Okay? Now we're going to come around to the back. Okay, we're going to start up on the very top. The very top, we've got our clearance running lights. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. They are the proper color red, and they are functional. Okay? Our rear door is not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, it opens and closes properly, and is latched closed. Okay? Now, our cargo lift, hydraulic cargo lift. It is not bent, it is not cracked, it is not broken. It's properly mounted and secured with two safety chains, one on the left and one on the right. Okay? And it's hydraulic, and there are no leaks. Okay? If there were any leaks, they'd be visible in this portion where the hydraulics are. Okay? All right. You may be asked the operation in order for it to work. If you take a look over here, there's some instructions. The way it would work is you have a lever down here, okay, and you switch here. You release the chains if you want it to come down and open up the platform. So you'd press this and push down, press this down, and it would open up. When you want it to close back up, you push that up and pull that up, and it will close automatically. Okay? All hydraulics. All right. Now, you got your DOT reflective tape. It's properly mounted and secured. It's clean, and it's visible. All right. Here, you got your reflectors and your tail lights. Tail lights and reflectors. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken, properly mounted and secured, proper color red, and they're functional. Okay? From here, let's go over to our DOT reflective tape again. It's clean, properly mounted and secured, and visible. All right, ICC bumper. It's not bent, it's not cracked, it's not broken, it's properly mounted and secured, and no broken welds. The next, we have our license plate. Our license plate is clean, it's not cracked, it's not bent, it's not broken, clearly visible and up to date. Okay? Now, everything on this side of the truck and trailer is the same, except for three things. And we'll take a walk and I'll show you. This is our landing gear crank handle. Okay? It's not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted, secured, not missing any nuts and bolts. Okay? Okay, under here we have the fifth wheel release arm. Pointing it to right here. Okay, it's not bent, cracked, or broken, and it's fully engaged. Okay. The other item on this side, third item, will be our exhaust system. Our exhaust system is not bent, cracked, or broken, not missing any nuts and bolts, properly mounted and secured, no severe dents, and not missing any nuts and bolts, and no leaks. If there were any leaks, we would have black soot around the couplings. Okay? All right. Now, at this point, we're going to ask the examiner if they would assist us in checking our lights. Okay? And I like to take the examiner around and express to them what lights we're going to check. Okay? So, we would like to check, at this point, the clearance lights on my top clearance lights on my tractor. Okay, making sure they're working. We want to check our headlights, left and right, high beam and low beam lights. We also want to check our amber directionals and four-way flashers. Okay, front and the sides. Okay. We're also going to take a walk, and we're going to say we're also going to inspect these also. Our reflectors are here. Alright. We're also going to ask them, I'd also like to inspect my front clearance lights and my side clearance lights. Also, we want to inspect our tail lights on the tractor. Okay, we have our tail lights we need to inspect. We have our brake lights. We have our left and right directionals and our four-way flashers. Okay. Also, we'll ask them to inspect our running lights. Also inspect this running light also. Running lights. Ask them to inspect our clearance lights on the very top. Okay. And also inspect our tail lights. Our tail lights will include the tail light, okay, our left directional, our right directional, our four-way flashers, and our brake lights. Okay? All right. So with that, we'll go in the truck, and I'm going to have to identify which ones I need to have the inspect, okay? Okay, now we're going to check the lights, okay? So, I'm going to go in the cab, and you have to tell the examiner what lights you would like them to check with you, okay? And when I go into the cab, I'm going to put the key in the ignition and turn one click to the right, because without doing that, my high beams will not work, okay? So, I'm going to get in the cab. Turn the key one click to the right. Okay. Now, could you please go into the front of the truck, and I'm going to have you check my clearance lights. Clearance lights working. Okay. My headlights, low beams working. Okay. My high beams working. Okay. My left directional. working. Okay? Okay. Now I need to have you go back and check my tail lights on my tractor. But before you go back, could you check the clearance lights on the track for my clearance lights on the top in the front and on the top side? Working. Okay? Clearance light on the side, working. Okay? Under the tractor, tail lights. Tail lights working. Left directional. Working. Right directional. Working. Four-way flashers. Working. Brake lights. Working. Okay, now I need you to go to the back of the trailer. Running lights working. And going back to the trailer, please. The running light, red running light working. Okay? Top clearance lights on the back of the trailer. Working. Tail lights. Tail lights working. Okay? Left directional. Working. Right directional. Working. Four-way flashers. Working. Brake lights. Working. Okay, that's good. Okay, now once I was finished with doing my light inspection, I remembered that on my previous, I had forgotten to have something inspected, okay? And I made a mistake. So, I have that opportunity to ask the examiner, examiner, I would like to go back to an area which I missed, and they will be gracious enough to allow you to go back and to that area where you feel you missed and take care of that stuff that you missed on that first pre-trip inspection. Now, can any of you know what I missed on that pre-trip inspection earlier on this? Okay? The items that I missed, okay, are going to be here, and I'll show you, okay? All right. Before, I went in and we did the brake chamber and then the slack adjuster, and then what we did is we came out to the brake drum, okay? Well, I was too quick in advance and I shouldn't have gone that far yet. The items that I missed are my spring hangers, okay? So I have to repeat this to the examiner. This is what I would like to inspect, is my front and my rear spring hangers. My spring hangers, they are not cracked, they are not bent, they are not broken, they're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and the bushings are in place, okay? From there, I have to inspect my leaf springs and auxiliary leaf springs. The leaf springs are all present, they are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly mounted and secured and have not shifted more than 1/4 inch out of alignment, and they're properly mounted and secured, okay, with 2 U-bolts. The 2 U-bolts are not cracked, bent, or broken, and they're properly mounted and secured with 2 U-bolts. 2 U-bolts are not cracked, bent, or broken. They're properly mounted, secured with 4 lug nuts, okay? And they are tight. Okay, those are the items that I missed on that first part of the inspection. The examiner will allow you to go back at any time during your pre-trip inspection, as long as you haven't said that I am finished with my pre-trip inspection. Okay, so you can go back at any time, and they'll be gracious enough to allow you to go back. And if you forget something, don't think that you got to continue. You can stop right there and go back, and then tell them, "Oh, I missed this," and they'll give you permission to go back and show them what you missed. Okay, just so you're aware of that. Okay, now at this point, we're going to do the in-cab inspection. Okay, this is where you're going to tell the examiner, now I'm going to do the in-cab inspection. Okay? All right. Okay, now we're going to do our in-cab inspection, okay? So, we're going to start here with our fire extinguisher. Our fire extinguisher is fully charged, it's properly mounted and secure, okay? Then we're going to go to our three red reflective triangles, and they are present, okay? Then we're going to reach in here, and we're going to these are going to be our spare fuses, all right? From here, we're going to go to our seat belt. Our seat belt is not cracked, it's not frayed or loose worn fibers, okay? It's properly mounted and secured, okay? It locks and unlocks properly, and I will keep it locked, okay? Now my seat is properly mounted and secured to the floor, not missing any nuts and bolts, not cracked, bent, or broken. Okay? Alright. My gear shift is not bent, cracked, or broken. It's properly mounted and secured to the floor, and there is no debris, and the area around it is clean. Okay? Alright. Now we're going to take a look at our mirrors. Mirrors left and the right mirrors. They are clean, they are not cracked, they are not broken. They're properly mounted and secured, not missing any nuts and bolts, and the rubber seal is in place. Okay? Now, after you check your mirrors, you're going to start your engine. Okay? So, I'm going to make sure it's in neutral. I'm going to engage my clutch. Okay? And I'm going to start the engine. Okay. Now I'm going to make sure it's in neutral, and I'm going to slowly release the clutch. Okay. Alright. Now, my windshield is clean. It's not cracked or broken. No illegal stickers or obstructions. It's properly mounted and secured. Okay? My windshield wipers. Operate properly and wash. You have to demonstrate the wash working. Okay? Alright. Then from there, we're going to go to steering wheel. Steering wheel. Okay? Steering wheel. No more than 2 inches of play or 20 degrees on a 10 degrees on a 20-inch steering wheel. I'm going to repeat that. The steering wheel should have no more than 2 inches of play or 10 degrees on a 20-inch steering wheel. Okay? Alright, my electrical horn. Working. My air horn. Working. Okay. Now, my turn signal indicator light. Working. Okay? My right turn indicator working. Okay? 4-way flasher indicators. Working. Okay? Alright. Now, my defroster. Alright? Defrosters. Working. Okay? Heater. Working. Okay? Make sure that you turn this in the heat position for your heater. Okay? So you know. So you got your defrosters working right here. Heater working. Okay. All my gauges are present. Okay? Starting with my air gauge working. Governor cutoff between 120 and 140. Okay? Fuel gauge working. 3/4 of a tank. I have my speedometer, okay? I have my tachometer is working. My oil pressure gauge is working. Normal oil pressure gauge operating should be 45 psi, okay? Water gauge is working properly, normal water temperature 180. Voltage gauge shows 14 volts, which indicates it's working and that the alternator is charging my battery. Okay? Now I'm going to check for any air leaks. Okay? So I want to make sure that my governor cutoff is between 120 and 140 psi. Okay? What you just heard in the background was my governor cutoff. Okay, I'm over 120 pounds. That's what you want to hear, is that. Okay, so with that, in order to check for leaks, okay, what I want to do next is I'm going to push the clutch in and put it in low gear. Okay, and then I'm going to turn off my motor. Okay, release my clutch and release both brakes by pushing both of the buttons in. Okay, my vehicle is now in gear and cannot roll. Okay, now in a combination vehicle, okay, you should not lose more than 4 pounds pressure in 1 minute. You need to make sure that the day of your test you have to have a watch on and you have to do a full minute. Okay, so in a combination vehicle you should not lose more than 4 pounds of pressure in 1 minute. So I'm going to apply the brakes. Okay, and I'm going to hold it. So I'm going to apply the brake and hold and watch my gauges for 1 minute. And if, for example, you do lose a little bit of pressure, which you might, okay, it's acceptable, but no more than 4 pounds. Okay, so we did it for a full minute. Working. Okay, all right. Now we have no leaks. Now what we're going to do next is we're going to check for our warning lights. Okay, that will be our ABS warning light and low air warning light. Okay, so with that being said, in order to check my ABS light should come on and turn off within 3 to 5 seconds after I turn the key. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on. It went off. It's working. Okay, now we're checking our air warning light. Okay, our low air warning light, that's what we're checking next. Okay, our low air warning light should come on at no less than 55 psi, 55 pounds. Okay, now in order for me to do that, I fan the brakes. It means I keep tapping them. Okay, so I'm going to fan the brakes down and we're going to watch to see if the warning light comes on. Okay, ready? Warning light came on. Okay, so working. All right, now what we're going to check next is our tractor protection valve. Okay, and our tractor parking brake, trailer parking brake. Okay, our tractor protection valve and our trailer parking brake. Okay, these are they're also called our emergency brakes in the event you lose pressure. Okay, so in the event you lose pressure, you want to have them pop out. We need to fan the brakes down between 20 and 45 pounds. Okay, so I'm going to fan these down and we have to watch that both pop out. Okay, so protection valve and our emergency trailer brake valve both pop out. both popped out, as you can see, okay? Working. Okay, so at this point, what we need to do is we need to start the engine up again, okay? And put it in neutral and build pressure to a governor cutoff of 120 to 140, okay? So I'm going to engage my clutch. I'm going to turn the key. Make sure that it's in neutral. Give it a little bit of acceleration to build pressure a little quicker. It takes a little bit. Within the range of 120 and 140, and you hear the governor cut off. Up and you're going to don't be afraid that it's taking too long. The examiner will give you all the time you need to get your air pressure built up so it's within normal operating range. Remember, it's 120 to 140, okay? And we're almost there at this point. Now I want you to see if you're able to hear it kick in, okay? Okay, there. You heard that. That means you're ready, okay? So now we've gained our full pressure, okay? Now we're within normal operating pressures, okay? So now we're going to check our brakes, okay? We're going to start with our tractor brakes, okay? So in order for me to do that, what I will do is I'm going to now engage my clutch, okay? And I'm going to put it in low gear, okay? And I'm going to check my tractor brakes. In order to check my tractor brakes, I'm going to release right here my trailer brakes, okay? So I'm going to push this red button in, and I'm released my trailer brakes in the back right now, okay? And I'm going to slowly release my clutch until I feel a gentle tug, okay? And 2 hands on the steering wheel. Slowly, and I can feel that. See how I gently tugged it? Okay, my tractor brakes are working. Okay, now I'm going to set my trailer brakes, engage my trailer brakes, and we're going to check our trailer brakes now. So I'm going to release my tractor brakes right here, top button, okay? And I'm going to slowly release my clutch until I feel a gentle tug to see if they're engaged, okay? There, 1, 2, see a little bit of tug. See, they're working. Okay, now My tractor brakes are working, my trailer brakes are working. Now I'm going to check my service brakes in alignment, okay? In order for me to do that, I'm going to pull the truck up ahead approximately 5 miles an hour and apply my brakes, okay? So, I'm going to put my foot on the brake here. I'm going to release my trailer brakes, okay? It's in gear already, okay? And I'm going to pull forward, okay? 2 hands on the steering wheel, and I'm pulling forward. Pull up a little bit. Push my clutch in. My brakes. Okay. My service brakes are working. Okay? And my truck is in alignment because the truck didn't pull to the left and it didn't pull to the right. Okay? All right. Now, I'm going to put my truck in neutral. I'm going to set my tractor brake, my trailer brakes, make sure it's in neutral, release the clutch, brake. I will now turn off my engine. Remove the keys, put them in my lap, and I am now finished with my pre-trip inspection. Okay, so we're all done with our pre-trip inspection, okay? Now, there's a few things I want to emphasize to you that the examiners want to make sure, okay? The students need to make sure that they build the pressure. They will give you the time to get governor cutoff to 120. They expect you to get their pressure up between the governor cutoff 120. Okay, it's very, very important. So make sure that your pressure is always built up. That's the operating range and safe range where they want our students to be at. Okay, now also at the very end, I said I am finished with my pre-trip inspection. Okay, anytime before you say that and you remember that you did something wrong, or you forgot, okay, or you primarily forgot, you can go back and have the examiners go back with you and check it, okay? Before you take that key out, put it in your lap and say, I'm finished with my pre-trip inspection, okay? Those are the main points I want to make sure, okay?